Coming up on this episode of the Moneypants Superpower Hour. Paying kids for chores sounds like a brilliant idea, up until the moment one of your kids casually waves their hand at you and says, "Nah, you know what, Mom? I'm actually enjoying my book here. I'm not interested in the money today. You can go ahead and do the dishes for me instead." That's typically when parents say, "Nope, we're not playing this game. You're going to do your job because you live in this house." Today we're going to discuss the Moneypants rules to follow when someone in the family neglects to do their job for any reason. After all, the jobs in the house are not optional. You can't let dishes or garbage pile up. Someone has to do them. So today we'll discuss how to keep the home running smoothly and fairly when someone is unavailable, sick, or simply refuses to do their part. Plus, we'll share the simple solution of what to do when your teenager starts making money flipping burgers and mistakenly thinks it means they no longer need to help out around the house. All this and more, but first, the joke of the day.
I'll never forget the last words my uncle said to me before he passed away. "Stop shaking the ladder, you little twit." Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Moneypants Superpower Hour. We are your hosts, Hannah and Fontaine Judd, and we're the proud parents of 8 sons and 7 daughters, ranging in age from toddler to college student. We are both BYU graduates and the creators of Moneypants. Head on over to CaptainMoneyPants.com to learn more about what we do and what we're all about. We believe every person on this planet has been given at least one superpower to help them accomplish their unique mission in life. But the only way to unlock those superpowers is through work ethic. That's when greatness happens. And that's where Moneypants comes in. Moneypants is the complete tool set for cultivating work ethic in all aspects of a person's life. And welcome to Season 2. Can't believe we have over 50 episodes. Over 50 episodes of us telling our successes and failures using Moneypants. And this topic, today we're going to be talking about substitutions. And this topic, this has been in development for quite a while, trying to fine-tune substitutions. And what happened was, so with Moneypants, you pay your kids cash. And we were working with a beta family, and we're explaining to them, okay, you're going to pay your kids, this is what you're going to do, this is how you're going to do it. And the parents came back and they're like, yeah, there was a problem. One kid said, "No, I'm not doing that." And all of a sudden, as a parent, you're like, what do you do? You're kind of stuck.
Because if you framed it of, hey, you're going to get paid if you do your job, you choose to do your job, we'll pay you. Mm-hmm. Well, what if they choose not to do their job?
Yeah.
So wait, everybody could just choose not to do their job, and then you're back to square one of, I have to do it all, and how's this fair?
Well, you're back to threatening or manipulating or whatever your tactics were before.
You're back to the same boat of me, hoping, begging that somebody would please help me out cleaning the house. Yeah.
And this mom in particular had people coming over for dinner. She was busy preparing the meal, and this kid was supposed to be cleaning the living room, and they didn't do it.
She offered them money.
Yep. And
offered them, hey, it's job time, do your job. And the kid, don't want to do it.
And so the mom ended up having to do it herself. And partially because she didn't have time to sit down and go, okay, little Johnny, this is why we need to do it. And this is the whole deal. And this is how it works. He had her over a barrel.
Yeah, and quite frankly, a lot of systems where you reward your child to do chores or do things like that, this is where people go, hey, that doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't fly. You're part of this house. You should be helping out. We're a family here. We all mess up. We all need to clean up. I'm not paying you to do this. You live in this house.
Yeah, but moms and dads need everybody to help out. This isn't a hope or a want. This is a need.
Yeah.
Everyone needs, and also the kids need to. It's funny. The kids need that experience as well. And of course, they don't know that. They don't understand that because they're kids. How would they know? But moms and dads know. And it's so healthy for the kids to have those responsibilities. And so
So what's the solution here? What is the solution here? Because you can understand why people would be turned off to the idea of paying their kids when all of a sudden the first time somebody goes, nah, you go ahead and do it. I'm not interested.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, don't you want to play soccer? Don't you want to do such and such? No. And all of a sudden, again...
You're like, you know what? You need to clean your room and you need to do the dishes.
And you better do it now.
You better do it now or,
out to the woodshed with you, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of break this down.
Well, we have a solution.
Right.
We have a solution. But the first thing is to understand when you're assigning out jobs, this isn't your kids doing you a favor of, oh, will you help me out? That sort of thing. How you frame this whole thing is really important. These are stewardships. When you assign people rooms to clean and areas to be in charge of in the house, it's their responsibility. It's their stewardship. And whether they're getting paid or not, it's their responsibility. So you have to set that. You have to set that up with your kids.
No. Okay, one person can't be doing all the work, Hannah. First of all, that's not fair, but that's not right. And whether it's the mom or the dad or the oldest kid or that one kid who just takes it upon themselves to keep the house in order, it's not fair. Not only it's not fair for the person doing it, but it's not fair for everybody else in the family either. It's not healthy and it's not right. And so that's the whole principle that we're kind of espousing here, is that everyone needs to contribute because you're all part of a team and you're all part of a household, and everyone should be contributing and taking a part of the responsibilities.
Yeah.
Because that's right.
Well, and how many people or how many kids, how many people do you know who go, oh, that's mom's job.
Oh, yeah.
Mom's job is to do that.
Oh, no. You get to college
and
mommy's not going to clean your room for you. And it's like, wait, what? I remember hearing that when I went to college. I'm like, my mom never cleaned my room for me.
But for some people, that's
true.
And that is their attitude is...
forget their attitude. That was their experience. Mom did clean the room.
I have more important things to do than do any favors for you right now, Mom. You do your job of cleaning the house and taking care of the house. I've seen this attitude.
No, because mom's the maid.
It's so common.
Mom is the maid.
And so...
How degrading is that for women, by the way? How degrading is that, Hannah? Where moms... The pinnacle of our society, the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world, the one who has the biggest influence on the future of society has been relegated to family maid. Yeah, that's kind of... Boy, is that backwards. That's so backwards.
Yeah. And so we're saying, no, the job of the mom is to actually teach everyone to take responsibility for themselves and look at what, make sure they're contributing. That's the job of the mom, is to nurture character and correct attitudes. And
exactly.
So that is the job of the mother.
So here's the principle. Here's the solution to the problem. If someone isn't willing to help out and gives nah, I don't want to, or I don't care about football, or I don't care about piano lessons, or I don't want anything, so I'm not going to be motivated. Well, here's the deal.
Fine.
That's fine. It's still your responsibility. It's still your stewardship. And guess what? If you don't do it, you're going to have to pay somebody else to do it. And all of a sudden, that changes the dynamic considerably. But you have to set it up that this is your stewardship. Little Johnny, little Daniel, whatever your name is, this is your stewardship.
Yeah. Whether you get paid or not, this is your responsibility in the home.
It'd be in your best interest, though, to get paid.
But wouldn't it be fun if you also got paid? Yeah, I'm willing to do that. But whether I pay you or not, it's your responsibility. And if you choose not to take your responsibility, you are going to be responsible to hire a substitute.
By somebody else. And so this whole episode is about how to set up substitutions. And really, before you even start using Moneypants, you should be very clear when you set this up. These are stewardships, but then there has to be consequences for not fulfilling your stewardship, and they have to be set up ahead of time. And this is how you do it. So that's what we're going to talk about today is stewardships and and implementing if there's a substitution, and sometimes there's a legitimate reason for a substitution, but how to implement and avoid some of the pitfalls. And so we're going to talk about basically the two different scenarios, whether somebody's excused from doing their job or they're unexcused. We're going to talk about in detail what it means. We're going to define excused versus unexcused. We're going to talk about the mechanics of substitutions, like what the steps are, how to do it. Like, here are the basics.
And also, like, if you say somebody's job is excused, what the app does with that. How the app handles that.
And the neat thing is the app is well integrated into this process, and it makes everything very simple and straightforward. We're going to give a couple of notes on things to watch out for, and just a little clarification on when it comes to substitutions, what certain things mean. And we're really going to get into the weeds on this one. And then we're going to talk about some ways that people try to get around substitutions and the 4 different tactics that you'll see, the claiming they're sick or they're too busy or having somebody else cover for them or even if they have outside jobs.
Yeah, you don't want to make any rookie mistakes in that arena. So we're going to set you up so you're prepared, and so the jobs will get done rain or shine, and it doesn't all get dumped back onto one of the parents or both the parents, whatever the situation is. So this is a very valuable podcast. This will basically outline the rules of the game.
And I should be very clear, Hannah. You and I have been tweaking this for years now to make sure that it works, because we have all different personality types and people who want to test the system, and you want to set up clear boundaries. So let's just get right into it. Let's start off with the 2 different scenarios when it comes to substitutions. And maybe I should even clarify what a substitution is. It's when somebody else does your stewardship. Someone else does your job. That's what a substitution is. Yeah. And there are only two ways that can happen. Either it's excused or it's unexcused.
And to clarify, when somebody substitutes a job, they basically get paid overtime because they already did their job. And
we should be very clear. You cannot be a substitute unless your job is done first.
Yeah. So a substitute has to have their job done first, but a substitute gets paid overtime, basically, because they've already worked really hard, and then having to turn around and do somebody else's job. Guess what? They're going to get paid more for that.
But that's fair. I mean, that seems they've already worked hard. They've already done their stewardship, and now you're saddling them with another stewardship.
Yeah.
But let's talk about that. The 2 different scenarios. There's either excused or unexcused, and let's define what it means to be excused. Where this is really just either you're out of town or you're sick. Those are the only times that you're excused from your stewardship. Because you literally can't do it. It doesn't mean you're not willing to. It means you can't. You're not able to. And that's it. Either you're sick or out of town. That's it. But so let's define out of town.
Out of town, yeah, because out of town does not mean they're not there during job time. It does not mean that they're gone or they're busy. That doesn't qualify as out of town. If they're out of town, it means they're sleeping somewhere else. Like
they are literally physically out of town. It doesn't mean they're out of touch or out of their mind or out of contact. No, they're out of town. And this means like they're on a trip. They're at a dance camp or a scout camp, or they're visiting the grandparents in Wyoming or something like that.
On a ski trip or something. They're not there.
They're not there. They're physically not there.
And they're not sleeping at your house,
Yeah. Because otherwise, what will happen is anytime somebody's not there, they don't have to do their job. Well, all of a sudden you'll have people disappearing all the time conveniently at job time. And everybody's experienced this where, you all sit down to a nice meal, mom or dad or whoever it was made this delicious meal, and it's all there and everybody sits down and you eat it. And then right as you're finishing up, mom or dad look down, check their phone, see what time it is and look up and to assign who's going to clean up, and poof, everybody's gone. Like, wait, what happened?
Where did
everybody go? Oh, I guess everybody's out of town. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about legitimate, planned, previously scheduled, out of town, like not available. Because otherwise, anybody could make any excuse of, oh yeah, I'm gone. And we don't want that. Being out of town does not mean they're busy. It means that they are literally not there. And I should be very clear. If someone has a scheduled activity, it means it's on the calendar. Okay? It's on the family calendar. And even in those situations, when it's on the calendar, you can still work around that and be like, okay, well, you can't do your job. I see that you have soccer practice from 7 to 8, and we're doing job time from 7 to 8. Fine, I got it. We're going to give you a job, and your job will be from 8 to 8:30 when you get home. Yeah. So there are ways around that. But when we're talking about somebody being out of town and that being a legitimate excuse, it's, they're just not there and they're not able to do their job. The second excused scenario is if they're sick, where if you're in bed and you're not doing anything else, if you're too sick to do your job, that also means you're too sick to go to school, you're too sick to go to practice, you're too sick to go to your activities, you're too sick to play. Good indicators are usually, that they have a fever or they're throwing up. And let's be honest, Hannah, when your kids are really sick and when they're faking it. And then there's always that gray area, but there's usually no confusion if they're really sick. And this is kind of the judging criteria. If they're too sick to do their job, then they're too sick to do anything else. And so if they have a big activity planned that night, you need to set it up, and I guess we'll talk about this in a minute, but you need to set it up that, okay, well, if you're too sick to do your job, you're also going to be too sick to go to your activity tonight.
And that's the right thing to do. We'll
talk about that in a minute.
If you have a kid that has a tendency to pretend that they're sick when it's convenient, you'll have to point those things out. Say, well, if you are sick, then you do need to stay home. You need to get into bed, and no miraculous recoveries when this activity starts later, just so we're clear.
Exactly.
So you'll have kids who maybe test that boundary.
So, and then the other scenario we have for...
So those are excused.
Right.
Out of town and sick, that's an excused...
That's an excuse for not doing your job. And then the other category is unexcused, where basically it's anything that's not excused. So they're not out of town, they're not sick, they just didn't do their job for whatever reason, or they didn't complete their job properly within the job timer. So that's excused, that's unexcused. Let's talk what happens now when someone is excused. I think that the app makes it very easy, where what happens is the user loses money for that job. Obviously, because they didn't do it, they're not going to get paid for it. So they're going to lose whatever they would have earned from doing the job first. Secondly, they're not going to get mastery for the week for that job. Because mastery, you have to do whatever it is, rain or shine, every day in order to earn one mastery point. And if they didn't do it one day, whether they're sick or not, sorry, you're going to lose mastery for that week. And then a new job will be created inside of JobJar for someone else to do, so they can get paid to do the work. And the good news is the person who is excused from doing their job does not lose their bonus.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, if you were sick, you won't get paid for that day. But you know what? That's not really your fault. So we're not going to take away your opportunity to earn the bonus at the end of the week.
Or if you're gone at scout camp, or you're gone visiting the grandparents for 3 days or whatever.
Yeah, it wasn't like a fault of your own. It wasn't laziness. It wasn't due to a lack of diligence on your part.
You were excused.
Yeah. At the same time, you didn't do your job every day that week, so you're not going to get a mastery. So it makes sense.
Right.
It makes sense. And how you would access that, by the way, is when the job inspector's going through and marking who's done their jobs. If somebody's not there and they need to hire a substitute, they just swipe from the right, and they'll have the opportunity to, then it shows up. You can choose whether...
Yeah, the two options are sub and then sub plus fee.
Yeah, so the sub plus fee is for if it's unexcused.
Well, let's move on. So that's what happens when you're excused. You don't get paid for the job for that day. You lose your mastery. A new job jar gets created a new job gets created in JobJar, and you get to keep your bonus. But if it's unexcused, the loser still loses the money for that job. They still don't get mastery. A new job jar is created. But here's the kicker. If a job is unexcused, you lose your job bonus for the week.
because that job bonus is for a person who does their job consistently, rain or shine. They don't miss a single day. Mm-hmm. So the app rewards people for consistent effort. If you can go the whole week without missing your job a single day, wow, you double your job money.
So that's a big one. That's a real big one right there.
The first time you go and you don't do your job and you lose that bonus. So that's a big deal. But then the second difference is that
you have to pay a fee.
Yeah.
And in our family, it's $1, but depending on how much, what your family's fee structure is, it could be $2, $3, it could be $5. That's a sizable motivator to make sure you don't get any unexcused fees for your job. You want the whole point is to motivate work ethic, and you don't want to miss your job. And the reason we do it, and it needs to be in cash. And the reason we do it in cash is because, as we talked about in our podcast, the power of cold hard cash, there's something about cash that has a more powerful effect on behavior than just numbers on an app. Because we tried using just the app and deducting it from their income on the app.
Well, yeah, because we're like, hey, we have an app. Let's just do digital money and digital credits and not bother with cash, let's make technology work for us. It will make our job easier. But we found out it really is not nearly as effective.
No, what would happen is I would say, okay, you didn't do your job. I'm going to have to get a substitute. And the response was, okay, just take it out of the app.
Yeah, take it out of the app. And it was like it was a free pass.
Yeah, and that's not what we want.
Yeah, there was no connection between I didn't do my job, I'm having to pay for it. Instead, it was like, oh yeah, the app will take care of it for me. And no consequence to me.
Yeah.
Whereas if they're having to go to their money bag, pull out the money, hand it to you to make sure that their job that belongs to them is getting done. It means something.
Yeah, it actually triggers a pain sensor in the brain. Something. When you're handing over that cash, that hard-earned money, when you're handing it over and it's leaving your hand, and it's that physical manifestation of your work is going away, and you're losing it, it triggers that pain sensor in the brain, and
I had to give something up.
Yeah. And that's a good thing, because that's what we want. Because it should not be an easy thing to just, I didn't do my job, who cares? That's not what we're about. We want to motivate the consistent effort. So to get unexcused is a big deal. To get a substitution plus a fee, that's a big deal. It's a heavy price to pay. And it's designed that way. So now I kind of want to talk about the mechanics of substitution, like how it actually works. So let's do 3 different scenarios here. Where scenario number 1, just going to walk through how substitutes work. Johnny is out of town at scout camp. The job inspector announces before job time that there will be a substitution available at the end of job time. And the inspector is the one who runs and does all the substitutions. That's one of their jobs, is the inspector. And they can decide how they want to kind of run this, Hannah, where maybe that they could say, all right, the first person who is done with their job, completes their job and gets it passed off, they can claim the substitution. Or, maybe you want to do it, you can say the oldest kid has dibs. It totally depends. However you want to set it up, just you want it to be some sort of fairness. Maybe the oldest kid has a job that takes the entire job time and there's no way they'd ever be first, but they're actually the most responsible. And the idea is the substitute is getting a reward for working hard and already being consistent. And so as you mentioned earlier, Hannah, it's like overtime pay, where getting a substitution, it pays better than a regular job. And so you want it's kind of use it as a reward. And so if someone's already doing a good job, you want to add on to that. And then once the inspector has finished inspections, they go to Johnny's account. Remember, Johnny's the one who was out of town. They go to Johnny's account and they swipe the job and they choose sub. And then a new job jar item will get created. And then the job inspector will go and, let's say it was Catherine. Catherine earned the opportunity to, do the substitute. The job inspector will assign the job to Catherine and she'll get to work. And typically this isn't a problem. We really haven't had this issue, but if you want, you can set a new timer for Catherine to get the job done. But here's the neat thing. Catherine has already worked hard. She's already shown that she's effective and is a hard worker and is consistent in her effort. So it usually isn't a problem getting this substitute job done. But if you want, you can set a 20-minute timer. Catherine, you have until this time to get the job done, or I'm going to give it to somebody else. And then once Catherine finishes, she'll go to Job Jar, mark the job as complete, and this is cool. The inspector will go into the family safe, pull out $1, and give that $1 bill to Catherine. Again, this is cash-based. Catherine needs that amazing reward. And you can kind of almost think of it like a mini payday. But that $1 will go directly into Catherine's fun money. And she'll put the cash into her bag, and the app automatically adds it to her fun money piggy bank. So that's one scenario where how the job substitution will work.
If someone's out of town.
If someone's out of town.
I'll run through the next scenario. The next scenario is...
Well, it's identical.
Johnny's out of town at scout camp, and the job inspector announces a substitution will be available. But in this situation, everyone has an activity right after job time, and nobody is available to claim that substitution job. So what happens in that situation is the job falls to the responsibility of the job inspector. If the job inspector cannot find substitutes, then they do the substitution.
Well, the job still needs to get done.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. If the job inspector knows this ahead of time too, they could just use job time to do the job themselves. Now, here's the cool thing. The job inspector gets paid for inspecting as well as any substitutions they do. So if the job inspector wanted to, they could, if there were 2 or 3 inspection or substitutions, they could claim them all if they wanted. But that gets pretty old pretty fast. And the idea is to give other people the opportunity to earn this extra money. But it goes back to the job inspector. It's their prerogative, how they want to run this. So just a couple different options there. And then scenario number 3, the job inspections are all done. And little Sally did not finish on time, or she didn't even start, or whatever. But job inspections are over, and she didn't pass. So what? Now, this is interesting. This is different. The job inspector, instead of marking sub on Sally's job, he's going to go to Sally's account, go to the job, and he's going to mark sub plus fee. And Sally now has to go to her little cash bag and pull out $1 or more, whatever your family's fee schedule is.
The app will tell you how much.
She's going to go and pull out some cash and hand that to the inspector. That's the fee she's going to have to pay for not doing her job, for not being excused from her job. And hopefully it makes her really upset. And she's like, wait, I'm having to pay because I didn't do my job?
And I'm losing my job bonus?
Yeah. And then the job inspector will dismiss her, say, okay, you're gone. And a new job will automatically get created in Job Jar. And the inspector will give the job away just like before. And let's say, the oldest kid is the one that gets it. We'll call him George. And George goes, finishes the job, marks it as complete in Job Jar. And then at that point, when you mark it in Job Jar, it'll tell you, hey, hand that fee that you collected from Sally, you're going to hand that fee over to George. Now, George is the recipient of that fee money. And Sally's the one who's basically, Sally's hiring a substitute.
Now, when you collect the substitution fee, it's important that it goes to the inspector. We've made the mistake in the past of having the person who, is paying the substitution fee to pay it directly to the person who did their job.
Excellent point, yeah.
And it causes bad feelings.
Yeah, especially between siblings.
Yeah, it causes bad feelings. Whereas, so it's a little thing. You wouldn't think it's a big deal, but the fee has to be collected to the inspector, and then the inspector pays it out.
Which is part of the reason why the inspector has to be either a mom or a dad or the oldest child.
Yeah, and then they go, I need this because I have to find somebody to do the job, and I've got to hire somebody, and you've got to pay for it.
Yep.
But they should not be paying it directly because it causes bad feelings. Yeah. So it's one of those little things. If you want to finesse this and have it down to a science, you want to avoid that.
Okay, so those are kind of the different scenarios to, like, whether it's a substitution or a substitution plus a fee. And that's the basic, like how it works. I want to kind of give a couple of details that maybe little nuances
other
here.
rules to the game. Okay, so this is kind of like the rules to the game. There are a couple other rules you need to know about, and here they are. The first one, you need to know that when you say, hey, this person didn't do their job, whether it's excused or unexcused, that substitution job appears in the job jar list of jobs that are available.
Right at the top.
But here's the catch. They're only in there until midnight of that night. And so if somebody does the substitution, they need to make sure they claim it that day.
Otherwise it disappears.
Yeah, it disappears, and too bad. And the reason for that is because if you have all these, what if you didn't do that and you had substitutions piling up? Well, it's the next day. The person's going to be doing their job anyway. Yeah. And so somebody could go and claim the substitution, go, hey, I claimed the substitution. It's done. Well, yeah, the other person already did the job.
So it just gets confusing.
So that's why it's that way. But you need to know that if you're doing a substitution, hey, I got to mark this right away.
So daily substitutions disappear at midnight if they haven't been claimed.
Yeah, you got to claim them that day.
Weekly substitutions disappear at midnight on Saturday night. So weekly substitutions, they'll be there all week, but they also disappear at the end of the week. And then as far as weekly substitutions go, they don't get a fee. There's no option for a fee because the job is actually worth more than a fee. Remember, weekly jobs pay way more than daily jobs. Sometimes 10 times more than a daily job. And so the job itself is the reward. So if you're going to substitute for somebody's weekly job, the job in and of itself pays well. And then here's a common mistake that we've noticed is that sometimes the inspector will pass somebody off, even if, the job is mostly done, like close enough. No. Even if only 1% of the job is left undone, the substitute will still get 100% of the substitution fee. Okay, so when Sally didn't finish her job on time, she pays 100% of the substitution fee, not 95% or 50%. No, she pays it all. She lost the opportunity to do her job. She had plenty of time. It was all very clear what was expected. She had the job timer. You're past the honeymoon stage. Here we go. She just, for whatever reason, didn't finish her job on time. And when she should have, she has to pay the whole fee.
Yeah, so don't fall into the trap of thinking, well, they did part of the job, they'll get part of the pay. And
nope.
First off, that really complicates things, but also it gives them the wrong message, because if she does half the dishes, she doesn't get half the pay. You only pay for jobs that are completed properly and on time. And it's a good life lesson, because would you pay your barber half if he cut your hair halfway? Would you pay your surgeon half if he finished half the surgery? No. Would you pay a guy for fixing your car halfway if he finished 2 years later? No. You need to finish the job properly and on time. You need to do it 100%.
And the flip side is, let's take it the other angle. If you pay half your mortgage, will the bank let you live in half the house? No. These are life lessons your kids should learn. They only get paid for doing the job all the way and doing it correctly.
And doing it in a timely manner.
Yeah. So, and now this last little bit, this last little section, I just wanted to kind of talk about, and to wrap up this whole topic, is I want to talk about ways that we've noticed where people try to get out of and get around substitutions. And here they are. There's 4 basic techniques that we've discovered or noticed. Number 1 is people claiming they're sick. Number 2, people claiming they're too busy or even purposely scheduling things during job time. Number 3, older kids paying younger kids to do their job for them. And number 4, any kid who has outside income, some sort of outside job. And so I want to talk about these 4 different, how to deal with these 4 different scenarios. Number 1, when people claim that they're sick. Well, as we talked about earlier, a good way, moms and dads usually, it's pretty obvious if your kid is actually sick. But there's always that gray area of, well, I don't know, maybe they are, maybe they're not.
They're saying they don't feel well.
Well, vomit and fever, those are the two great indicators. But if there's not, oh, my stomach hurts, or oh, there's a bone in my leg, or, something's wrong, I don't know, you kind of have to go, well, I don't want to call my kid a liar, but I can't check to see if they're sick. I'm not going to take them to the doctor because they don't seem that sick. I can't find anything wrong. And they're like, oh, no, I don't have to go to the doctor. I just don't feel well. It'll probably be over soon. Well, here's the rule of thumb. A good way to judge if they're sick is if they're doing other things they want to do or had planned. So if they're too sick to do their morning job, but then they're suddenly out playing on the trampoline with their friends, or they're going on a bike ride, or they're going to soccer practice, that means they weren't sick to begin with.
Well, or they're not sick enough that they can't do their job.
Right. So the rule of thumb is this. If someone is too sick to do their job, then they need to be on a 24-hour quarantine. That means no other activities. And that's the right thing to do, Hannah, because if they're sick, then you should keep them home and quarantine them.
They shouldn't be passing it around.
They shouldn't be at soccer practice getting everybody else sick.
Yeah, they'll end up with pneumonia if they keep pushing themselves if they're sick. So it's not... So it's what's good for them.
Yeah.
But it's also helps if maybe somebody's just trying to manipulate you by saying they feel sick when they don't.
No, but that's it. Because if they're not sick, you should keep them home and quarantine them for 24 hours anyway. Because that'll teach them. That'll teach them to cry wolf, because the consequences are the same either way. If you're sick or not sick, if you claim to be sick, we're keeping you home for 24 hours. If you're too sick to do your job, it's a mandatory 24-hour quarantine. It'll make them think twice. Well, am I really sick? Maybe this weird pain in my stomach is just me being uneasy about having to do my job. Maybe I'm okay. So, but that's just that's one way of dealing with that problem is people claiming they're sick. Number 2, Hannah, you want to take this one? People who claim, you had some thoughts on this one.
Yes, people claiming that they're too busy. The Wall Street Journal, a long time ago, had an article, Less Mandarin, More Chores. And basically, the point of the article was people are filling up their kids' schedules with all sorts of activities, to be competitive, to get their kids ahead. And so their kids' schedules are packed. And the objective was so that their kids would be more successful in the future. And what the Wall Street Journal was saying was, hey, look, every study that's been done shows that actually the one thing that indicates their future success is if they're doing chores at home from an early age. And that was more indicative of their future success than whether or not they did after-school tutoring and music classes and Mandarin and all these extras that their schedules were getting packed with. And so if your child is too busy to do chores, it's actually time to rethink that and rethink that approach.
If they're too busy to do chores, they're too busy.
Yeah, they're too busy. And
time to cut something out.
It's time to prioritize. And this is hard for me. You have to do some soul searching and figure out, okay, what's actually important.
Well, we come from family lines of unrepentant overachievers, Hannah.
Yes, very much so. And so this is actually something really hard for me is I want to, I'm overachieving. And so this is something that I've really had to work on. And it hurts my soul to cut things out, but it's necessary.
Well, but if they are really busy, Hannah, and let's say that the job time coincides with a valuable activity. Maybe it's soccer practice. We keep saying like soccer practice or band practice or whatever. That's okay. That doesn't mean just because something coincides or conflicts with job time doesn't mean you have to cut it out. But it does mean you need to be a little more flexible maybe with job time. And that is, older kids had after school sports or church youth group or whatever during job time. Then all you do is you just adjust their job time or give them jobs that aren't time specific.
So, for example, I found that my kids in high school had a lot of activities after school and maybe they weren't getting home until 7 o'clock at night. Well, we had already had job time. And so what you do for that sort of situation is I'm like, oh, well, there are other jobs that aren't critical that they be done, before dinner or right after dinner. So, for example, cleaning up after dinner or cleaning the bathrooms. Those were jobs that I could hand out to my high schoolers, but that had more flexibility in them. And so that worked well for them. And so you adjust to that. You make sure it's something that can work for their schedule, but still expect them to be contributing. Don't be like, oh, wow, what you're doing at school is so much more important. You know what? I'll just do everything, because I've made that mistake, and you end up getting treated like a maid. Your kids lose respect for you if you do that. And I've made that mistake. Don't do it.
And we'll talk about that in a second here, where one of the mentalities that comes from that.
Yeah, you don't want to go there. It's sickening.
So, and then along those lines, this number 2 case, people claiming they're too busy. It could be that they're purposely scheduling activities during job time just to get out of jobs. So all you got to do is either change when the job gets done, or better yet, let your kids know that their jobs have to be done before the activity. So, hey, I love the fact that you've got soccer from 5 to 7, but Sally, your job has to be done before you leave, or before you go to study group, or before you leave for your job at McDonald's, whatever it is, your job has to be done before that. And then, hey, by all means, you can pack your schedule with all sorts of stuff. Just be aware, your job has to be done before you can enjoy this privilege, this extracurricular activity. And that seems to work really well to curtail the people who claim they're too busy. It's either you got to cut stuff out, change when job time is, or make whatever the activity is contingent on their job being done in the first place. Those are kind of the 3 solutions to that. Okay, on to scenario number 3. When it comes to trying to get out of substitutions.
Yeah, and by the way, this exercise of having your kids, make the time to clean up after themselves and get used to that idea of, hey, I can't pack my schedule so full that I don't have time to eat. I don't have time to clean my room. I don't have time. I did that. I did that in high school, and I did that in college, and my room was a disaster. And I remember my roommates getting frustrated with me because I was never there. I was never there to clean up after myself, or to, I was like, oh, I'm too busy. No, you can't do that. And it's actually not healthy. It's not healthy. You need that balance of, okay, I'm going to spend this time to organize, clean my laundry. I'm going to straighten up my room. I'm going to, take care of these basic things that need to be taken care of, and getting used to the idea that you need to put that in your schedule. It's a life skill. So don't discount it as, there's too many more important things, because it will come back to bite them later if they have that idea.
Well, and that's the mentality that we're actually addressing in this very next one, number 3, where you have older kids paying younger kids to do the job for them. First of all, this is not okay. Because Moneypants rule, there are no money transactions between siblings without parental supervision. That's just a rule across the board. When you start paying your kids cash, there's going to be a very strong temptation for kids to make deals and, oh, if you do my job for me, or I'm going to buy this from you, or whatever. No, all money transactions happen with parental supervision only.
Okay, otherwise, that's a very important rule, because otherwise you're going to have to deal with so many stupid fights about money between siblings. So you've got to set that rule up. And you got to stick with it. And anytime somebody does that, whatever transaction they did, it's annulled. It is not a legit transaction.
Yes.
And
they usually know it too, Hannah.
Yeah,
that's
know
why they
it.
didn't get mom and dad involved in the first place.
Yeah. Anyway, so you set that rule up, but it's important for the substitutions, because somebody always paying a little kid, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll try paying them less than substitution. Yeah. So instead of paying them $1 to do their job, they go, hey, I'll just get, my 5-year-old brother to do it for $0.25.
Or I'll give you a lollipop, or I'll let you play with my rock collection, or whatever.
Yeah, we've had kids go buy bags of candy, which they're also not allowed doing, hide it, and just, oh, wow, all the little kids are magically so willing to do your job for you. Oh, yeah, you're giving them a cheap lollipop each time they do it. But what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
Okay, so this is the big thing. And this is the mentality that we're addressing here, Hannah, is Everyone needs to learn to work and contribute in the home. You're part of a team. Families are not accidental. There's a mom and a dad and a children. Everybody's working together as part of a team. Everyone needs to do their part. Otherwise, they develop the attitude that other family members are servants and that somehow my time is more important than everyone else's time. And that is so fundamentally flawed. And that's a very typical mentality. I think everyone goes through that kind of during their teenage years of my time is more valuable than your time. You're subservient. And they get this mentality that mom and dad, especially mom, is supposed to clean up after them and they have this mentality that people are there to serve them.
Well,
little Lord Fauntleroy, that mentality.
Yeah. When your kids are in high school, as a parent, you want to be supportive to them. And I found that, they need the extra sleep. They need a nap. They need this. And so you start helping them out. And for whatever reason, it doesn't matter how nice the kid is, they start interpreting it as I'm more important than you. And my time is more important than your time. And so it
breeds a mentality of entitlement. And it's bizarre how quickly it happens, Hannah.
Yeah, very quickly. Where,
what I'm
doing, my school and me doing well in school is more important than you or whatever it is you have to do.
Yeah, you're just the lowly mother. You're just the lowly father.
Yeah, and so
not only is that one of the most annoying mentalities to have to deal with, but it's also just wrong.
Yeah, but it happens when you, I was just trying to be nice. I was trying to be helpful to you. I was trying to, be kind to you. And instead, it turns into this weird,
mom is my slave
different
type
relationship with your kids. And it's not healthy and it's not right. Yeah. So you don't want to go there.
Well, that's number 3. We're talking about, ways of getting around substitutions. And that was number 3, older kids paying younger kids to do their job for them. And some of the mentalities behind that, which, are not healthy. Well, that kind of leads into number 4, and that is, outside jobs and income. The kids could use that as an excuse to get out of substitutions and to get out of having to do their job. And here's the thing, they may have a legit job like McDonald's or they do a lawn mowing service or whatever. The problem is that now they're gone and they don't think that they have to do their job anymore. They don't have to contribute at home anymore.
They don't need the Moneypants money because, hey, you know what? I just have to do these couple hours at McDonald's and I make more money there
in our family.
Than I do on Moneypants.
No, in our family it's like, $15 a week. It's not very much. But McDonald's pays $15 an hour.
I'll just go get a job at McDonald's and then I won't lift a finger at home.
Yep. And the problem with that
is... how do you deal with that?
Before you let your kid get a job, and we talked about this, Hannah, we've been very clear with all of our kids from the very beginning, is before you guys get a job, we tell our kids, it's a privilege. It is not a right in our home for you to have outside income. It's a privilege. Because remember, mom and dad are paying for the electricity and the rent and the gas and the water and everything else. The kid's basically living rent free. And now they have all this spending money, and mom and dad are like, well, you just lift a finger here around the house. And the kid's like, yeah, forget you. I got all the money and I want. And it's like, whoa, okay, time out. That's not what you want. That's not the mentality you're trying to engender. So before you let your kid get a job, you got to let them know it's a privilege and it's dependent on them getting their jobs and responsibilities done at home first. Remember, this concept of stewardship, Hannah, is so critical and it's getting lost on current society where kids not only should they have responsibilities, they need them and they need to be needed. And so the kids have to agree to the terms before they're allowed to get the job at McDonald's. And you brought it up, a good point, Hannah. The mentality is, the kid doesn't do their job and they're like, who cares? It's only $1. I make $15 an hour at McDonald's. I have fees all day long. Who cares? Okay, that's wrong on so many levels. First of all, you live in my home. You have to contribute. You're part of a team. The rest of the family, we're not your servants. And your time is not more valuable than our time. And the analogy I like, the football team where, you're running a play and the right guard goes, you know what, the play's going to the left side. I can take a break on this one. It doesn't matter. Well, So he lets this guy go through. The guy goes through and blows up the quarterback, and they lose yardage. It's like, well, dude, why were you taking a break on the play? Just because it wasn't going your direction doesn't mean that you didn't have to do your job. Or better yet, you're doing a running play and the wide receiver's supposed to go downfield and block, and he doesn't. He's like, doesn't really matter. And sure enough, the very guy he was supposed to block is the one that makes the tackle, and they don't score on the play. It's like, well, if you had just done your job, we would have been so much more effective. You're part of a team, and it's critical that everyone contributes, even if you don't think that what you're doing is that important, because it is. It really is.
Right. So these kids that are working outside the home, we talked in a previous podcast of ideas of how to handle that outside income, where maybe it all goes into a bank account that's, locked, or maybe it's just for a specific thing. Like, okay, you're working and it's all going into your braces fund,
right?
Because you want braces, or it's all going into your car fund
or your college fund.
Yeah. And so it's a good idea to have that set up as well. So it's just not, so they don't lose motivation to achieve their goals and habits and things like that, where they have this, I have more money than I need here to spend. So and I don't have to contribute at home anymore. You don't want to go there. So it's good to have that set up, that, hey, this money is going here that you earn at McDonald's. Outside the home, your outside money goes here.
Right.
And you have access to it when you're 18 and out of the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of like forced savings.
Yeah. So that's good. But on top of that, because they're getting paid $14 an hour at McDonald's, they'll say, well, if I work at home, I don't get paid $14 an hour. And so they're like, it's not worth my time to work at home. Like, let's say they take that attitude. Well, their time, as we said, isn't worth more than your time or their siblings' time. So it goes back to that, hey, this is your stewardship. Working outside the home's a privilege. You still have to, you live in this home. You've got to accomplish your...
And we're going to reward you for that, though. It's not like it's a punishment.
Yeah. And so one time, actually twice, I've run into people who were running money scams. And this is, oddly enough, this is one of the ways that they scam people, is they lead people to believe their time is worth more than your time. And so, like this one guy was telling me, he's like, I charge my clients, $30,000?
$50 million an hour.
Yeah, it was something ridiculous. It was like, I get paid $20,000 for 1 hour of my time and my
his dreams.
My golden advice. Therefore, we're in a 50-50 partnership. You're going to have to do 3 months of work to equate to 1 hour of my time.
He was so full of baloney.
Okay. But I've seen people do this more than once. And so if you're listening to this, if anybody ever does that to you about your time versus their time's $30,000 an hour and yours is only $50 an hour, don't deal with that. Anyway, but you don't want this attitude at home. And so here's how you deal with it. If you have a child who you've set this up with, and you say, hey, look,
if you want to work outside
the home, you have to get your job done before you leave. If, however, you go to work and your job is not done, whatever money you earn that day, you're not allowed keeping it, because your time is not worth more than my time. And so no, that money goes back to the family. It does not go in your little pocket, because you are not going to treat us that way. Mm-hmm. Okay? And this is very important, because we're not doing that. And talk about it with them ahead of time, because that's very disrespectful of, I'm going to just dump all the housework on everybody else. Yeah. And I'm going to make more money and not... I'm
better than everybody else. I'm more important than everybody else.
And so...
Which is comical if you think about it. And a McDonald's employee is more important than everyone else.
Yes. So...
You don't have to say that.
But that's...
And you are proud that they have a job outside the home.
Well, no, like if you're, for example, a stay-at-home dad or a stay-at-home mom, and you're not getting paid by the hour... And so you could have a teenager look at that and go, oh yeah, you don't get paid anything. I'm better than you. And your time is not worth. And quite frankly, I honestly felt that way about myself when I was first a stay-at-home mom. I thought my time was not worth anything and people would treat me that way. And then my husband was finally like, no, your time is valuable. Your time is very valuable, and you need to start looking at it that way and treating it that way. And that kind of like changed my viewpoint. But if you think that about yourself and you let your kids get away with treating you that way, that's sending a horrible, horrible message. Anyway, you want to nip that in the bud, and that's how you do it, is before they get a job outside the home, you set it up and say, hey, look, this is what's going to be the temptation, but if you choose to do that and not contribute at home, you'll lose any money that you make that day. You don't get to keep it because that's disrespectful to the rest of the family. And if it continues, you're not going to be able to keep that job.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
It's over.
And you know what's amazing, Hannah? We set this up with our very first children, and our daughter was our oldest daughter was the first one to get the job outside the home, and she knew that these were the requirements, and so she would get up extra early on Saturday morning and get her weekly job done before she went off to work, knowing that any money she earned at work would go into the family job jar account if she didn't get her job done before she left. Yeah. And so that works really well. If your kids, for whatever reason, neglect to do their duties at home and go off and earn all this money, you smile and say, oh, well, that's not what we talked about. You collect the money and it goes right into the job jar fund and they can earn it back.
Yeah.
$1 at a time.
Yeah, you want to set these, ideally, you want to set these things up ahead of time.
No, you have to. Otherwise, it will cause nothing but contention.
Otherwise, it ends up in a fight. So if you're already doing things, then you need to have a family council say, hey, what we're doing is not working. This is why. We need to rethink this. We need to redo this. And so we have a great podcast on how to run family councils. And so if you are in that situation where you're already seeing this going on in your family, listen to the podcast about how to run a family council and
get everybody on board.
And get everybody on board and set this up.
Yeah. And that's, so let's just kind of recap kind of everything we talked about, where there's only two different scenarios when it comes to job substitutions. Either it's excused or it's unexcused. And we kind of defined what those mean, what the term excused means. Either you're out of town or you're sick. And unexcused is basically there's no excuse for you not to do your job other than you just didn't do it. And then we talked about, how the app deals with these things, where details about how the app deals with excused substitutions versus unexcused substitutions. And then we kind of ran a couple scenarios about the mechanics of, how an actual substitution works. We gave 3 examples of different ways in which substitutions work. And then we kind of wrapped it up with, the different techniques that you're going to run into with people trying to get out of, having to pay for substitutions, or how to get out of having to do their jobs. And I wanted to end with just a recap of the fundamental principle. And this is really what we want, is to remember that everyone in the family has a stewardship. Whether you're getting paid or not, all the responsibilities in the house need to be divided up. And it is your responsibility. Moneypants, we do recommend paying kids and having them earn the things that they get. But whatever the case, if you don't do the job, you're going to have to pay somebody else to do it, because it's not fair or right for one person to be doing all the work. And as you mentioned, Hannah, you got to set all this up ahead of time. And family council is a great place to do that. And that's it. Those are all of our thoughts on this concept of substitutions and how to do it effectively and how to kind of avoid some of the potential pitfalls. If you like what you hear in this podcast, please tell your friends. They may want to listen to. We may cover a topic or answer a question that they currently have. And if you have a suggestion for a future podcast, go to our website under support and click Contact Us. Send us an email and we'll get right on it. And that's it for today. Enjoy once again our mystery guest composition. We'll see you next time.
Ooh, that sounds fun. Moneypants. What's that? ignite greatness in you.
In me?
Unlock your superpowers.
Ooh, I have superpowers?
Money Pants.
How do I do that?
Cash.
Ooh, I like that.
Money.
Ooh, even better. Tell me more.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about now.
Talk about
Cash.
what? Cash?
Money.
Yeah, money. I like money.
It's time for you.
For me, I'm so excited.
Money Pants.
Yeah, give me some money pants.
Yeah, Money Pants.
I want money pants.
Every day. All I want is more Money Pants.
Me too.
Money Pants.